ago, and I don't know what the occasion was, but the church was pretty close to being full, and we sang that. And then we sang the first verse again, but instead of going the words, we went ha-ha. So we ha-ha'd all through the first verse again. And it was kind of funny listening to the ha-has from different people. Because different people ha-ha in a different way. So next time you ha-ha, think about that. Ha-ha. Okay. In the passage of scripture I read you this morning, we discover that Thomas was not amongst the disciples who were hiding in that upper room, fearful of the Jewish authorities, who probably might like to get rid of all the followers of this man Jesus. And he found it very difficult indeed to believe that Christ indeed had risen from the dead. And I would say that, quite honestly, we too will have the same suspicion and wonder. And at the same time, wishing in our minds that it was true. And Thomas was not a rogue or a scoundrel, but I would suggest that maybe Thomas is us. Out of the reality of doubt, the possibility of faith is born. And here we need a word of caution. Even the faith that is forged by despair and born anew in the resurrection is not immune to doubt. We say, I believe, help thou mine unbelief. Because when we see things that shouldn't have been happen, we wonder about God. And the accident with the Broncos, the Humboldt team in Saskatchewan is an example. All those young men, many of whom killed, many of whom injured, and at least one that we know of will be unable to walk again, but of course that doesn't say that he have determination to try to walk again. And we still don't know all the details, and so it's not good to speculate. But what is true is the pain and the anguish of the families and friends and teammates of the horror that took place as they journeyed by bus to participate in a hockey game. We will always live with the paradox of faith and doubt as two sides, if you will, of the same coin. The reason for this is quite obvious. Resurrection faith doesn't come to us like a parcel in the mail or as a gift from grandma at Christmas time. We can never process it as such, for one possesses things, and faith is not a thing. It is an experience. Like Thomas, when our experience of God begins to wane, we long for proof to beat away that gnawing doubt. We want hard evidence, something we can cling to. And I think there are times in our lives when we feel as if we have reached a mountaintop, where we are one with God, and the feeling is great and wonderful. When Jesus was transfigured, the disciples wanted to build little buildings up there in honor of Jesus. But he said, no, you can't come up here and stay up here. You've got to go down to the plane of need. And that mountaintop experience is something which you grasp and you hang on to, becomes a memory in your lives. And I imagine that all of you at one time or another, maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 or 5 times even in the course of your life, have realized, yes, I'm so close to God I could touch him. Because there's that oneness, that feeling of peace and tranquility. And then there are other times when you feel as if you're right down in the valley and God is, oh, heaven knows where. And you're miles and miles away. So faith and doubt, two sides of the same coin, do make us stop and think and meditate upon it. Yet faith always comes as a challenge, adventurous, a risk, and as such can never be totally captured for all time and all places in one moment. Even our God and our feeble attempt to understand him eludes us, because every time we try to point to where he is, he moves on. Thus the decision to believe is one that entails risk. We are those who have not seen, as Jesus said, but have believed in my resurrection. We are those then who live our lives in the midst of this doubt and faith, this doubt and this death and resurrection, logical disputation, and it is here that we learn about what it means to talk with our God. Let me ask you a question. Do you dislike buying shoes? How about dress shoes that are stiff, expensive, and require constant maintenance? Doesn't sound very enterprising, doesn't sound very appetizing, or doesn't sound really very good. Or would you rather wear white cotton sweat socks, maybe flip-flops and slippers instead? Which of those would you prefer? Okay. Life demands that we wear footgear appropriate to the season. I don't know how many times I've wanted to dispose of my boots and go to wearing shoes again, but I don't dare. It's the same thing with the tires in the car. We had opportunity a week or so ago to remove the winter tires and put on summer tires, and we had to have an oil change and a grease job anyway, so let's do that. And then we saw the weather forecast, snow coming, freezing rain. I said, I don't think we will. And I would be very grateful for the fact that we have not switched the tires. Because it could be that we switched them in October, but hopefully we get summer before then. So, but you have to wear accordingly, so you've got to wear boots, unless you're wanting to risk having a cold or getting your feet wet or getting sick. No, you wear the appropriate foot gear. Life demands then that we wear shoes, buy shoes that sometimes don't fit as comfortably as we would like. Some of us have high arches, and others have radically different sizes between one foot and the other. We often gripe about those coverings that must be stood in, walked in, worked in. We moan and groan to get back into the soft white 100% cotton sweat socks, flip-flops and slippers. Doubt is like a pair of ill-fitting shoes. They cramp our spiritual toes, weaken the high arches of our faith, and aggravate our moral sciatica. Turning back the clock, my very first job was sorting out heels and soles in a cobbler shop. On the Thursday morning, the cobbler would receive a pile of heels and soles. Ladies' heels for the little high heel shoes, soles for boots and soles for shoes, heels of different sizes. And this pile that lay upon the floor had to be sorted out into a wall of boxes, each box labeled with the correct size heel, so that when the cobbler was doing his work, he would simply reach in, take out what he needed, and do it. And you had to be darn sure that you had your 1.5 inches, and your 1.25 inches, and your inch, and your 1/2 inch in the right slots. And so when I came out of school on a Thursday afternoon, there was 2 hours of hard work sorting out the heels and the soles. The funny part about it is that as I stand before you today, I'm still sorting out soles. Nothing much has changed, other than the shape of the soles.